Good afternoon one and all, this is your Prasanna Ma'am. So yes, in our previous class we have completely dealt with the microbial world, wherein we have completely dealt with viruses and bacteria, and today's session we are going to start on Thallophyta, that is algae. So first let us look into the introductory part of Thallophyta. Stephen Endlicher called the bodies of plants without root, stem and leaves as thallus. Okay, those plant bodies with just thalloid plant body, okay, with just thalloid plant body without root, stems and leaves is called as Thallophyta, or grouped into Thallophyta by Stephen Endlicher. Earlier classification, earlier division Thallophyta includes fungi, algae and lichens, as none of these have a proper plant body. Okay. Previously under Thallophyta, what groups are included? Fungi, algae and lichens, all are included under the plant body, under the Thallophyta body, okay, because they do not have proper root, stem and leaf structures. According to the current classification, fungi are now separated into the kingdom fungi from Whittaker 5 kingdom system classification. When is the kingdom fungi introduced? Kingdom fungi is introduced in 5 kingdom system of classification, 5 kingdom system of classification by R.H. Whittaker, right. So, since lichens are symbiotic association between fungi and algae, they were not included in any kingdom. They are not included in any kingdom because lichen is the symbiotic association between algae and fungi. What are those groups which are not included in 5 kingdom system of classification? Virus, viroids, prions and lichens. These are the organisms which are not included in 5 kingdom system of classification. So now thallophytes include only algae and term Thallophyta is rarely used. Okay. So as such, when separate fungal kingdom is introduced under Thallophyta, only algae were placed now. So let us have a quick recap. According to Stephen Endlicher, what is algae? A thalloid plant body without root, stem and leaves, and based on the earlier classification, Thallophyta includes fungi, algae and lichens. But later, according to Whittaker's 5 kingdom system of classification, when kingdom fungi is introduced and lichens, virus, viroids, prions, these are not placed in 5 kingdom system of classification later. And currently, according to current classification in Thallophyta, only algae is introduced, only algae is present. Okay. Next. So yes, fungi is placed in the kingdom fungi, algae under Thallophyta, lichens, virus, viroids, prions, they does not belong to any kingdom and they have no place in the 5 kingdom system of classification, remember. Now when we have to look into algae, the study of algae is called as phycology or algology. Mandhyam O.P. Iyengar is known as father of Indian phycology or algology. So what are the key characteristic features of algae? Algae are eukaryotic, unicellular or multicellular, they lack true root, stems and leaves, and then algae, they are made of cells that have cell walls. Okay, algae have cell walls, they are photosynthetic and they lack fruits, flowers and seeds. Okay, so this is all about algae, the basic description of algae. And then algae structure. Okay, so algae will show great diversity in their shapes and sizes. Okay, algae shows great diversity in their shapes and sizes. Some of them are microscopic, some of the algae are microscopic, whereas some are giants reaching the height of 100 meters in length. Okay, some are microscopic, some gain or reach the length of 100 meters in length. Best examples are kelps, marine brown algae kelps, okay, wherein ectocarpus will stretch, okay, ectocarpus will stretch its feet and they get occupied with what? Kelps, okay. huge massive plant bodies in the marine bodies. Okay. So, plant body of algae can be unicellular, motile or non-motile, colonial, multicellular or filamentous. Let us also look into the examples of that. Unicellular, motile or non-motile. Non-motile unicellular algae, best example is chlorella. Okay, non-motile, right? Chlorella. Motile unicellular algae, best example will be Chlamydomonas. Okay. Colonial green algae, Volvox. Multicellular filamentous algae, best examples you can take as Pyrogyra, Cladophora, okay, and filamentous green algae you can take Spirogyra and Eulothrix as the best examples of filamentous green algae. So, these are different algae based on the shapes, based on the unicellular, colonial, filamentous, okay, multicellular, these are the different algae. Next, algae habitat. Where are algae mostly found? Predominantly algae are what? Aquatic in their habitat. Most of them are freshwater, mostly they are freshwater, few of them are marine also. So, moist surfaces of soil, wood, stones and even snow. So, few of the algae will also grow in moist surfaces of soil, wood, stones and even snow. Symbiotic relationship with fungi will form lichens. Algae with symbiotic relationship with fungi will form what? Lichens. Okay. So, now if you have to see, few algae are symbiotic, I told you, right? On the moist surfaces of wood, algae growing on the moist surfaces of the wood, and then algae on the body of sloth bear. This is a symbiotic association. Algae which is growing on the surface of the sloth bear will help the sloth bear in preventing from the predators. So, sloth bear will be escaped from the predators because of the algae which is over the body of the sloth bear. Okay. So, algae here on the body of the sloth bear is giving a camouflage activity for it, whereas sloth bear is in turn providing the shelter for algae. This is an obligate symbiotic association between sloth bear and algae, and then algae growing on the marine surfaces and on the moist surfaces. This is completely about the habitat of algae. And then mode of nutrition. So, mode of nutrition if you have to take, algae are autotrophic organisms performing photosynthesis. Yes, algae are the autotrophic organisms which are performing photosynthesis. They belong to the phytoplankton group which is responsible for producing the majority of oxygen on the planet. Okay. So, maximum photosynthesis is conducted by algae, and in ocean 60% of the dissolved oxygen is fixed by the algae only, which is conducting oxygenic photosynthesis. So, here next is reproduction. When it comes to reproduction in algae, algae has both asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction can be through vegetative reproduction or spore formation. Vegetative reproduction is by either ways, binary fission or fragmentation. Vegetative reproduction can be through binary fission or fragmentation. Spore formation is through aplonospores and zoospores. Okay. Sexual reproduction is by anisogamy, isogamy and oogamy. What is isogamy? If both the male and female gametes are morphologically and physiologically identical to each other, then it is isogamy. Firstly, sexual reproduction involves in fusion of gametes, right? Fusion of gametes. Okay. Sexual reproduction, isogamy, which involves in the fusion of gametes, wherein gametes are the gametes in isogamy, they are morphologically and physiologically identical to each other. Next, anisogamy, male gametes and female gamete they can be either structurally or physiologically dissimilar to each other. Okay? Anisogamy, male and female gametes, they can either structurally or physiologically be unidentical to each other, and oogamy is a fertilization in between motile, small motile male gamete and large non-motile female gamete. Okay? Oogamy is fertilization between small motile male gamete and large non-motile female gamete. This is all about the sexual reproduction. So, first if you have to see asexual reproduction, first is vegetative reproduction. It can be through binary fission or fragmentation. Binary fission, we all know binary fission is also called as amitosis, wherein single cell is dividing into two, right. So, here single cell divides into two without the involvement of any spindle apparatus formation. Spindle apparatus formation. So, there is no involvement of any spindle fiber or spindle apparatus formation. So, without the involvement of spindle apparatus formation, single cell divides into two cells. Karyokinesis and cytokinesis is happening in the absence of spindle apparatus. So, this is also called as amitosis. This is also called as amitosis. Division of parent cell into two daughter cells. Division of parent cell into two daughter cells. This is exhibited by unicellular algae Chlamydomonas. Next, fragmentation. Breaking up of the body of an organism into fragments. Parental body or the parental thallus is break into small fragments. On maturation, each fragment will grow into a new individual. Okay, on maturation, each fragment will grow into a new individual. Best example over here is Spirogera. So, this is all about the vegetative reproduction in algae. One is binary fission and the second is fragmentation. Next, asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is through spore formation. Here we have two different types of spores. One is non-motile spores and the second type is motile spores. So, here we have non-motile spores, and the second type is motile spores. Okay. So, here non-motile spores also called as aplanospores. These are asexual spores. Best example is Eulothrix. Zoospores, these are flagellated motile spores that germinate to produce new algae. So, this will germinate to produce new algae. Here for zoospores, those which the asexual mode of reproduction through zoospores, best example is what? Chlamydomonas, which have flagellated spores. So, these are zoospores, and the parent body from which zoospores arise, that parent cell is called as zoosporangium. Zoospores are motile asexual spores which come from the zoosporangium. Okay. So, best example for zoospores is Chlamydomonas, aplanospores is Eulothrix. Examples are more important, they play a key role in our exam. Okay. Then sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction, as we have discussed, we have anisogamy, isogamy and oogamy. First, anisogamy. Both the gametes are dissimilar. It can be morphological dissimilarity or physiological dissimilarity. Example for anisogamous mode of sexual reproduction is Eudorina. And then isogamous mode of sexual reproduction, both the gametes are similar to each other. Morphologically and physiologically, they are similar to each other. Best example for motile similar gametes like isogamy with motile gametes include Eulothrix, and isogamy with non-motile gametes include Spirogera. So, for isogamy, Eulothrix and Spirogera are the best examples. Next, oogamy, oogamous mode of reproduction. Female gamete is large and non-motile and male gamete is small and motile. For example, over here Volvox and Fucus. Volvox and Fucus are the best examples for the oogamous mode of sexual reproduction. Clear, right? Next, phases of algal life cycle. Okay. In plants, both haploid and diploid cells can divide by mitosis. Yes, in plants both haploid and diploid cells will divide by mitosis. What is the best example for haploid cells dividing by mitosis? Best examples include megaspore, which is haploid, microspore, which is haploid, differentiates to pollen grain, which is haploid. So, yes, this haploid megaspore undergoes 3 sequential mitotic divisions forming a haploid embryo sac. Yes or no? So, this forms out to be haploid embryo sac. Haploid embryo sac. So, this undergoes 3 sequential mitotic divisions. Same the case of microspore, which is haploid, differentiating into haploid pollen grain. This undergoes 1 mitotic division forming out a vegetative cell and a generative cell. So, in plants haploid cells also undergo mitosis, but this is not the scenario for animal cells. In animal cells mitosis occurs, mitosis or meiosis occurs in the diploid cells only. So, both haploid and diploid cells of the plant cells will undergo mitosis over here. Next, this ability leads to the formation of different plant bodies, both haploid and diploid. As such, in the life cycle of algae, we can exhibit 2 generations, haploid and diploid phases. But then, the only diploid cell in the life cycle of algae is zygote. Zygote is the only diploid cell in the life cycle of algae. Once you look at here, the sporophytic generation is represented only by the one-celled diploid zygote formed by the fusion of haploid male and female gametes. So, here this I took the example of angiosperms and I conveyed you that the haploid cells will undergo mitosis. Okay. Same the case you can take for algae also, wherein from haploid zoosporangium, haploid zoospores are formed as such. Okay. Next, there are no free living sporophytes. Yes, there are no free living sporophytes, only diploid cell, that is zygote, which is acting as sporophyte, that is dependent on gametophyte only. And then meiosis in zygote results in the formation of haploid spores. Okay, meiosis is resulting in the formation of haploid spores. And then gametophytic generation. The haploid spores divide mitotically and they form the gametophyte. Okay. Gametophytic generation, haploid spores will divide mitotically and they form a gametophyte. The gametophyte will form haploid gametes. Okay. Gametophyte here will form what? Haploid gametes. Alternation of generations. Algae will show alternation between gametophyte and sporophytic phases. Okay. Algae shows alternation between the gametophyte and sporophytic phases. The dominant photosynthetic phase in such plants is the free living gametophyte. Okay, so the dominant photosynthetic phase in the algae is what? Free living gametophyte. This kind of life cycle is termed as haplontic life cycle. Best examples include volvox, Spirogyra and Chlamydomonas. Once you look at the image, you will be more clear with it. Yes. So, look at here, wherein the haploid gametophyte, okay, both male and female gametophyte are haploid. Male cells will be releasing the anthrozoids which will come and fertilize the egg. Egg is also haploid over here. Post fertilization, the first diploid cell which is formed, or the first sporophytic cell you can say, that is zygote. After fertilization, zygote is formed, which is diploid. This zygote will be developing into a diploid sporophyte. Zygote develops into what? Diploid sporophyte. Diploid zygote develops into a diploid sporophyte. And this sporophyte, in algae, this diploid zygote will immediately undergo zygotic meiosis. After zygotic meiosis, this will develop into haploid gametophyte only. So, what is it? haplontic life cycle where the gametophyte male and female gametes which are there, post fertilization diploid zygote is formed, and in algae zygotic meiosis takes place. After zygotic meiosis, those spores landing onto the suitable substrata, they develop into a new haploid gametophyte. Clear, right? Next. Yeah. Now let us look into the classification of algae. Okay. Based on the pigmentation, flagellation, storage products and cell wall. Okay. Based on the pigmentation, flagellation, storage products and cell wall, algae is classified into 3 classes. One is chlorophyceae, second is phaeophyceae, third is rhodophyceae. Chlorophyceae also called as green algae, phaeophyceae as brown algae, rhodophyceae red algae. So, these 3 are 3 different classes of algae. Okay, and the classification is purely based on the pigmentation, flagellation and storage products. So, the very first class, that is chlorophyceae, let us look into the general characteristics of chlorophyceae. Chlorophycean members are unicellular, colonial and filamentous. They can be into any of the habit, they can be unicellular, colonial or filamentous, and habitat, mostly they are freshwater habitat. Chlorophyceae, they are mostly freshwater habitat. Pigmentation is grass green pigmentation. Because it is grass green because of dominance in the pigments of chlorophyll A and B. It is grass green because of the dominance of the pigments of chlorophyll A and B. Storage bodies include pyrenoids. Okay, storage bodies include pyrenoids. They store protein besides starch. Okay, some green algae will also have oil droplets. Some green algae also has oil droplets. Till here it is clear, right? Next. Cell wall is rigid. Cell wall is rigid. It has, in green algae or chlorophycean members, cell wall is rigid. It has outer layer pectose. It has outer layer pectose and the inner layer is cellulose. Okay, cell wall is rigid. It has outer layer, that is pectose layer, and the inner layer is cellulose layer. Reproduction, vegetative mode of reproduction is fragmentation. Asexual mode of reproduction is from zoosporangia. Zoospores are released out, which are motile zoospores. Next, sexual mode of reproduction we have already discussed. We have isogamous, anisogamous and oogamous mode of sexual reproduction. And here the major part is about the examples. Isogamous mode of reproduction examples include Eulothrix, which is flagellated, Spirogyra, which is non-flagellated, and anisogamous best example is Euderina, oogamous example is Volvox. Okay, so these are the examples for iso, aniso and oogamous modes of reproduction in green algae. Here you see the shapes of the chloroplast. In Chlamydomonas you can see cup shaped chloroplast. Spirogyra is having spiral or ribbon shaped. As such, Chara is having discoid shaped chloroplast. Okay, and Volvox spherical shaped chloroplast. So, these are the different shapes of the chloroplast present in the green algae. Second is phaeophycean members. Okay, let us look into the general characteristics of phaeophyceae or brown algae. Okay, phaeophyceae or brown algae. Fine. Habitat is marine, and habit, they show great variation in size and form. They show great variation in size and form. They are simple, branched and filamentous like ectocarpus, or they can be profusely branched like kelps. Okay, they can be simple, branched, filamentous like ectocarbons, and they can be profusely branched forms like kelps. Pigmentation, if you see, chlorophyll A, C, carotenoids and xanthophylls. This is the pigmentation, chlorophyll A, C, carotenoids and xanthophylls. Next, the major pigment that is present over here is fucoxanthin. Fucoxanthin, which gives many shades from olive green to various shades of brown color. And then storage bodies in brown algae, they have complex carbohydrates like laminarin and mannitol, and cell wall is made up of cellulose. Over the cellulosic cell wall, it has a hydrocolloid called as algin. Okay, the gelatinous coat which is present over the cellulosic cell wall in brown algae is algin. And the mode of reproduction, if we have to look into vegetative, asexual and sexual mode of reproduction. Vegetative mode of reproduction is fragmentation, asexual will have biflagellate zoospores, and sexual we have pyriform male gametes, that is the gamete with one large flagella and one small, okay, pyriform, wherein gametes will swim across the water. Just a second. Pyriform gamete in the male gametes, the mode of spore is pyriform, wherein this swims across the water and it fertilizes the oogonium, and this is what type of sexual reproduction? Oogamous type of sexual reproduction. Oogamous. Okay. So, this is all about the mode of reproduction. And then here these diagrams are important. First is laminaria, brown algae, laminaria, then fucus and dictyota. Laminaria, wherein it has three components in it. First is hold fast, which is attached to the substratum. Second is stipe. Third, this long leaf like structures called as frond. So, hold fast, stipe and frond are present in laminaria. In fucus, if you have to see, only frond and hold fast are present, stipe is not there. In fucus, stipe will not be there, only hold fast and frond are present. In frond, you can see this air bladders, and you can see midrib which is present in the frond. So, this air bladders will also act as pneumatocytes. Okay. Dictyota, you can see in dictyota frond and stipe is present, but then the hold fast is not present, only frond and stipe is present, and here in dictyota you can see dichotomous branching. Fine. And next, so these are massive plant bodies in the marine bodies, those are kelps. And then last class, that is Rhodophyceae. Rhodophycean general characteristics, if you see, mostly they are multicellular. Okay, Rhodophycean members are multicellular. Some will have complex body organization. Some will be having complex body organization. Their habitat is mostly marine. They are found in warmer areas, high light intensity regions which is close to the surface area to great depth in the oceans. Then pigmentation, if you see in Rhodophycean members, they have chlorophyll A, D, R phycoerythrin and R phycocyanin. R phycoerythrin and R phycocyanin, these both are water soluble pigments. Okay. R phycoerythrin and R phycocyanin, they are water soluble pigments. Water soluble pigments, and the reserve food over here is Floridian starch. Floridian starch is the reserve food material. And then cell wall. Cell wall in Rhodophycean members is made up of cellulose, pectin and polysulfate esters. They have cellulose, pectin and polysulfate esters. Hydrocolloids over this cell wall, the hydrocolloids which are present are agar, carrageen and fumarate. Okay, agar, carrageen and fumarate are the hydrocolloids which are present over this cell wall. Reproduction, if you have to see, we have three modes of reproduction: vegetative, asexual and sexual modes of reproduction. Vegetative mode of reproduction is fragmentation. Asexual mode is by non-motile spores. Asexual mode of reproduction is by non-motile spores. Sexual reproduction is by non-motile gametes, wherein male sex gamete is spermatium and female is carpogonium. Remember that, spermatium and carpogonium. And here it is strictly oogamous type of reproduction. Previously in brown algae you can see oogamous and anisogamous, isogamous mode of reproduction also, but then in Rhodophycean members only oogamous type of reproduction you can see. So, these are different red algae members or rhodophycean members, wherein you can see Porphyra, Polysiphonia and Giladium. Then, so this table is important for us, wherein we have 3 classes: Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae, of which Chlorophyceae is also called as green algae. Major pigments are chlorophyll A and B. Stored food material is starch. Starch is the stored food material. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. Flagella, we have 2 to 8 equal flagella which are apical. Okay, flagella are apical. Okay, habitat is fresh water, brackish water and salt water. Phaeophycean members, brown algae. Pigmentation is chlorophyll A, C and fucoxanthin. Fucoxanthin pigment will give many shades from olive green to various shades of brown color. Stored food material is mannitol and laminarin. Cell wall has cellulose and a hydrocolloid over cellulosic cell wall is algin. And here it has 2 unequal lateral flagella. Habitat is fresh water, brackish water and salt water. Rhodophycean members, also called as red algae. Major pigments include chlorophyll A, D and phycoerythrin. Stored food is Floridian starch. Cell wall is made up of cellulose, pectin, polysulfate esters. Over this cell wall we have hydrocolloids like carrageen or agar. Flagellated members are absent, where the sexual reproduction is strictly oogamous type, and then habitat is fresh water, some are brackish and salt water. Okay? And then economic importance of algae. So, algal photosynthesis will fix half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on earth. Half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on earth is conducted by what? Algae only, and then this increases the level of dissolved oxygen. Okay? Algae will always increase the level of dissolved oxygen in the water bodies. Algae are the primary producers and they form the basis of food cycles in all the aquatic animals, and over 70 species of the marine algae are used as food. Best examples of those marine species are Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum. Okay? Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum, these are the marine species that form food. Food supplements. Okay? Unicellular algae like chlorella and spirulina. Okay? Unicellular algae like chlorella and spirulina. Hydrocolloids. Hydrocolloids include marine brown and red algae. Brown algae has the hydrocolloid algin. Red algae has the hydrocolloid agar and carrageen, which is commercially used. Okay. This has Gracilaria and Giladium. Okay. Sorry, Gracilaria and Giladium are the best red algae from which agar is being extracted. And on what agar is used? Agar is used in microbial cultures as a nutrient supplement and for the preparation of ice creams and jellies. Okay, this agar is used for the preparation of ice creams and jellies. This stands as a rich source of iodine. Okay, kelps. Kelps will have rich source of iodine, for example, Laminaria and Fucus. Now, let us look into the life cycle of algae. Algae has haplontic life cycle. Haplontic life cycle. Okay. So, it has haplontic life cycle. If you first consider the asexual mode of reproduction, from the gametophyte, which is haploid, zoosporangium is haploid. From zoosporangium, motile zoospores are released. Okay. This motile zoospores will mature to the main algal body again. Okay. So, this if it is conducting sexual reproduction. So, sexual reproduction, gametes are released. So, this is isogametes, isogamous mode of sexual reproduction. Gametes are haploid. Main body is haploid, gametes are haploid. After fusion, diploid zygote is formed. This diploid zygote will undergo zygotic meiosis. Zygotic meiosis occurs only in algae, remember that, zygotic meiosis. So, after this zygotic meiosis, the zoospores will be released. Zoospores will again mature to the main algal body. So, this is about asexual and sexual reproduction, haplontic life cycle. Whereas few algae like fucus, ectocarpus, they show some exceptions to the life cycle, okay. Whereas ectocarpus will show haplodiplontic life cycle, ectocarpus, polysiphonia, they show haplodiplontic life cycle. Ectocarpus and polysiphonia will exhibit haplodiplontic life cycle. Fine, and fucus will be showing diplontic life cycle. Fucus diplontic life cycle. Fine, this is about the complete life cycle and the exceptions of algae. So, with this we have finished the concept of algae. In our next class we will be starting with fungi, okay. Thank you. That is all for today's class. Thank you.